everybody. And, you know, everybody, many people, not everybody, has the idea, well, you know, my neighbor says this, therefore that. And it may or may not be true. And so that's a huge burden on this office to collect the accurate information. That in other places, you know, like I worked for a long time in Pima County, Arizona, it's everything's public information.
Yes, and mainly, especially with sales, we go off of what we receive from the title companies. So those are the main ones that we have. There are other ways that we can dig. But we still do our best. And I believe the state statute says that we have 1 year from the time of sale to get out there and reappraise. I would say sales probably needs a little bit more work than the permits. And with permits, what it needs is more communication with planning and zoning.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and start?
I thought we already did. That was the pre-start.
So I originally, when I reached out to Cristina Ramirez, she said that she would like to come, and then she texted me and said that she sent me a statement when she told me she wasn't going to come. She said, after much thought and prayer, I have decided to decline the invitation to the Assessor's Candidate Forum. The Assessor's Office has a very specific function that is defined by statute, and equal application of statute is the bare minimum for any potential candidate. State statute, the New Mexico Administrative Code, professional standards for appraisal, and the New Mexico Property Tax Division dictate what any potential assessor must do. Indeed, what matters the most is knowing how to navigate through the framework of local government and fulfilling our function as guided by statute. Experience matters. Since filing my candidacy, I have spent quite a bit of time traveling throughout the county talking to the people. I have been able to form direct connections with several voters and have listened to their concerns and answered their questions. I still have more traveling to do, but forming those direct connections with the people of Taos County is what I feel has the most impact. It's hard work, but anything worth doing is hard. I truly believe in the traditional grassroots approach, knocking on doors, listening, and spending time with community members, because it's how I was raised to campaign. It's the approach my late father, Leo Mondragon, and many other prior and current candidates have followed. If anyone would like to speak with me regarding my position on particular topics pertaining to the assessor's office, or to discuss concerns or ask questions, I would be happy to make time for you. Otherwise, I will see you on the campaign trail. Thank you. Oh, also, by the way, my name is Madison Davis, and I will be facilitating today. And then I also spoke to Douglas True. He is not in town today. He is helping his kids move to or from El Paso. Alexy, do you have an opening statement?
I do. And hopefully you won't be too mad at me for staring at my phone a little bit. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here, obviously. Really appreciate it. Taking the time to come out here and be a part of this conversation. This event was originally planned as a candidate forum, and I do want to acknowledge that all candidates were invited. I was genuinely looking forward to the opportunity to engage alongside these candidates, especially with early voting beginning on Tuesday, May 5th. I believe those conversations are important for our community. That said, I'm very glad we're here. At the end of the day, what matters most is that the people of Taos County have the opportunity to ask questions, get clear information, and better understand how the assessor's office works and how it impacts them. And I want you to know, regardless of the setting, regardless of who is present, I will continue to show up and I'll continue to listen. I'll answer any question that you have, open and honestly. I'm not here out of entitlement. I'm not here because I was selected or placed. I'm here because I made the decision to step forward and run. I believe I'm the best candidate to be the Taos County assessor. I currently work in the assessor's office. I bring with me not only technical knowledge and hands-on experience, but also a strong background in finance and analysis and accounting. I understand the systems, the challenges, and the responsibilities that come with this role. I believe that real improvement comes from engaging with the community and hearing their concerns, being willing to adapt and move forward where it's necessary. This campaign in this moment is not about placing blame on anyone else currently serving. There are a lot of hardworking people in the county doing their best every day, and this is about moving forward. It's about building an assessor's office that is transparent, accessible, and efficient, and fair and equitable, that people can understand and feel confident in. That means making information easier to access, investing in meaningful community outreach, ensuring valuations are accurate and applied consistently, and always balancing that with our responsibility to the community as a whole. Everyone's fair and equitable. I didn't set out to be a politician, but I stepped into this because I care deeply about this community. It's where my heart lives, and I want to be a part of making it better. Once I reached a point where I knew I could make a real difference, and I'm the right person to do it, I felt the responsibility to run. Over the past few weeks, I've been talking more about how the assessor's office works, things like exemptions, access to information, and how to navigate the process. I've heard from people who've gone into the office and asked others who have taken the steps and hadn't before, simply because they had new access to information that I'm putting out there. And even on the information side, we're already seeing movement. The county website was recently updated. They finally did that since the notice of evaluations came out last Friday on May 1st. I think it shows something important, in that when we focus on access and clarity, that progress can happen. To me, that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, this isn't about who gets credit. It's about making sure people have the information they need to understand the process, ask the questions they need to ask, and feel confident navigating it. Thank you for being here, and I'm here to listen and answer to any questions that you may have, and have a real conversation about how this office can be better and serve Taos County. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just go ahead and jump into the questions. Also, guys, since the other candidates dropped out, we kind of thought that this would be like a little bit more,
Just all for me now.
little less formal, right? So, but if anybody is wondering, that's kind of the reason for this particular.
Certainly, go ahead.
What do you see as the primary responsibilities of the county assessor, and how would you prioritize them?
Well, the technical definition is to list, value, and discover. And how I'll prioritize that is to make sure that everything is on the rolls, as we call it. So I've come across, from having internal experience, sometimes there's entire neighborhoods that aren't on the rolls, and it kind of gets pushed to the back burner. I'll do everything in my abilities to make sure that everything is on the rolls, whether that's utilizing satellite imagery, which is a fully acceptable method of valuation, or just reaching out to owners directly. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to assessment, it's like a pie, 100%. So the more people who are assessed, the less taxes you actually pay.
How would you ensure property valuations are fair, accurate, and consistent across Taos County?
Auditing. I know that I've heard a lot of pushback in my office about just simply not being able to do it, blaming software, certain things like that. So I would come up with an auditing process, whether that's looking at what we already have on the rolls, making sure that matches up with how much property is actually in Taos. looking at homes that haven't been valued already, and just utilizing resources that we already have that we may not be using.
What steps would you take to improve transparency and public understanding of the assessment process?
I want to see more public forums like this. I want to see more information on the website. I want to see it more timely. I don't think we should wait until the notices of value go out to actually publish the information on the website. So I'd want to make it more available sooner. I'd want to make sure that I'm more available to the community so that they have the ability to ask me any question that they want. And any evaluations and things that are done within our office, I want to make sure that they're published.
How should the assessor's office approach issues such as rising property values and housing affordability in Taos County?
Well, for starters, we need to make sure that everyone is on the rolls because, like I said, it's like the pie. So if not everyone is being recognized with their property, then the people who are paying more. So when everyone pays into the pie, everyone is more fair and equitable and pays a little bit less in their tax. And sorry, what's the end of that part?
How should the assessor's office approach issues such as rising property values and housing affordability?
Okay, so as far as the affordability, I would be willing to meet with more of the contractors and builders within the community. I want to listen to them. I want to hear their concerns. I want to hear what they need to be introduced into legislation to possibly receive grants or tax credits to provide more affordable housing within our county.
What role should the assessor play in ensuring eligible residents, such as seniors, veterans, and agricultural landowners, are aware of and receive the exemptions they qualify for?
Again, more transparency, making sure that everything is available on our website, but also being able to be available in person. I know not everyone is able to just check out the website on a dime.
What improvements, if any, would make the current systems, technology, or processes used by the assessor's office? What improvements, if any, would you make to the current systems, technology, or processes used by the assessor's office?
Well, for starters, I would make time to use the resources that we already have. I know that we have a software system in planning and zoning that's currently not being utilized, which would make everything very easier on both sides for both planning and zoning, for the community, and for the assessor's office. So it would be public facing. They'd be able to get their permit through there, and there wouldn't be two different departments trying to keep track of those permits by hand in an Excel document. So actually using what we already have that hasn't been implemented. And then I would also work with leadership just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we do need a change. When I go to some of my classes, people will actually laugh at me when I tell them that we're on Triadic. It's a software from the 80s that only uses F keys. And the reason that's been explained to me that we haven't been able to update it to this point is the fact that nobody can agree and they want a one size fits all because everyone on the county is on it, whether it's assessors, treasurers, payroll, finance. So I think we need to have a better realization together to look at a litmus list of maybe we won't have a one size fits all. Sometimes that's not possible. But we will come together because we know that we have to move forward and we can't just keep working with what we have. That being said, if I am still stuck with the dinosaur triadic, It's a poor workman who blames his tools. So I will still make it work. But I think I can bring leadership together to make a positive difference in all of those areas to make sure that we're moving forward with technology.
What professional or personal experience best prepares you to serve as county assessor, and how will that experience shape your approach to the role?
Well, I guess there's several. Whether it's just being a tia, I'm an auntie to 7 nieces and 1 nephew. They teach me a lot every day. They span the entire generations. So I've learned how to work with every generation. I have a background in finance and accounting. I worked for 6 years in Taos Ski Valley, and I worked for 3 years prior to that in Angel Fire Resort. And other than that, I've published my transcript from the IAAO, that's the International Association of Assessing Officers. That is the international association that you get any of your appraiser certificates from. So I am fully certified with them. I have actually been invited to become an instructor because you have to make 85% or higher in your classes, and you're able to teach those classes. There are currently only 2 instructors in all of New Mexico. One is based out of Santa Fe and one is based out of Albuquerque. So I think I can bring a lot to this role, whether that's just within my department or for the whole state if I become a certified instructor.
How would you evaluate the current performance of the Taos County Assessor's Office, and what changes, if any, would you prioritize?
I would evaluate it as they do the best they can, but the way that I move with my presence in the office and my leadership, I work to elevate everyone around me, and I'm trying to make that contagious in the office so that everyone feels the same way. And I really, truly love seeing once the kids got their certification and they're starting to speak more knowledgeably and confidently with what they do, the collaboration, it's just phenomenal. So I really look forward to seeing that move forward.
What does accountability look like in the role of county assessor, and how should the office respond if errors or deficiencies are identified?
I'd say the role of accountability is to pass our evaluations, to make sure that we are meeting every statute, every code. And I think with the accountability portion, we should be publishing our evaluations on our website so that everyone can see how we're doing as the state sees it with our evaluations from property tax division from the state.
What is your vision for the assessor's office over the next 4 years?
More education, more transparency. I say it a lot, but when there's more transparency and education within the office, when we know what each other does, when there's cross training, when we understand a little bit more, when we can see the full picture, then we're able to provide more transparency and education to the community. So they know more about what exemptions they qualify for, about how their properties are valued. I think that is what's going to reduce frustration on both sides of that window.
Can you describe a difficult decision you've made professionally and how it informs how you would lead as assessor?
Well, sure. I've had to do a few difficult things, whether it's just personally with employees. You know, if I get sorry, if you don't mind, to take a drink of water for a second. You know, whether it's interpersonal drama, complaints about one another, having to sit them down. I'm sure you may have seen on my page, I definitely shout out Kim Scott with Radical Candor. And what makes a good leader is the ability to care personally while challenging directly. And if you can meet that intersection, then people respect you a little more as a leader. So, you know, whether it's just confronting employees about hygiene or their timeliness, you know, and you see, caring for them personally allows you to have that conversation with them. Going out of my way to buy them new clothes. Going above and beyond anywhere that I can. And other than that, just making sure that I know that things are done correctly. I know I get pushback at times if I acknowledge a mistake, but I always try and make sure people understand that I'm not pointing a finger. I just want it correct and fair and accurate for our community members.
How should voters weigh experience within the assessor's office versus the need for new perspectives and change?
I think they should look at the state audits and the evaluations and make a decision for themselves.
What do you think sets you, how would you distinguish yourself from your opponents?
I represent change. I'm not stagnant. I haven't been there forever. Been there a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. But I move quickly. I move efficiently. I learn very fast. And I also just bring joy to the office. I do. I know everyone's birthday. I know their favorite cakes.
Do you believe the Taos County Assessor's Office is currently meeting the needs of residents? Why or why not?
I don't believe they are. And I think we can do better, like I said, with the transparency of letting people know about what exemptions they qualify for, making that clear. I think we can do better about publishing our evaluations and not having people have to dig for them through IPRA requests and just being fully transparent.
Does anybody else have any questions for Alexy? I know we already had some beforehand, but.
I was the finance and accounting manager for 6 years. Well, you overlook all of the functions of accounting and finance. So that's overseeing accounts payable, accounts receivable, reconciling bank accounts. Any more? I'm like, there's a lot to it. She does it now.
Anyone else?
The county has a surplus of like $16 million in their bank account. Is that an indication that we are drawing too much property taxes?
I'd have to look at it myself. I have not seen that report. I don't know that it means that. Another thing I also would love to dive into is the county's budget. I'm not that familiar with it at this point in time. I did interview twice for finance manager for them, but here I am now. And I know how a county budget is derived. It is, so you look at what they need, right? Wages, EMS services, firefighters, all of that. You look at everything that the county needs, and then you subtract anything outside of property tax income. then you divide that number by total assessed value, and that is how you derive the tax rate.
Because property taxes are 7% of the budget currently. I was just wondering, with 16 million sitting in the bank, it seems to me that they're drawing too much property tax if they have that surplus.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe it's a lack of services being provided. So like maybe we're being assessed properly, but the county actually isn't utilizing the resources. that
So
they
it's, I would
have.
have to dig into that budget myself, but I'd be willing to do it. I know from the commissioners forum that we were at, just last week? They were talking about all the money they needed for the courthouse and the plaza, that kind of stuff. I know there were also expanded exemptions for veterans and to expand the hospital, which are things we definitely need. And I know that has played into that number largely.
With the 3 days of auctions and selling off property, what role do the assessors have in that?
We don't have a very big role in that. The state comes in and mainly handles it. And for the most part, I know my role in it as an appraiser. I mainly just verified that the lands were vacant, went out to them, made sure that they were the right size and all of that, and just provided that to the state.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's okay if you decide that you're not comfortable answering, but I have recently read through the 2025 evaluation. I also read the 2024 evaluation. They are published, on the TRD website. Full disclosure, I also did an IPRA request to get them. But one of the things that I don't necessarily understand it, but I was horrified. There was a section that Property Tax Department highlighted that they have to audit all elected officials and county staff members for being assessed. And it says that there are no elected officials in Taos County that have had their taxes raised in over 6 years. What does that mean exactly, and how can that happen? And is that something that, if elected, you will be able to address and change? It definitely was an item TRD said was the current tax assessor's office is deficient in. What does that mean?
Okay, so it's deficient, so it didn't happen. I think if you read further in that evaluation, it didn't happen really across the board. And that's why when we only choose one specific area, that's why people feel like they're being picked on. Like I've said before, I think the market is a living, breathing being, and we need to keep our finger on the pulse of it. So I'm not in favor of only doing one section at a time. I think it should all be done at once. And I know that there's a way to do it. I know that I can do it.
So wait, so are different areas of Taos County assessed?
Yes, so basically in this last year, the only place that was really reappraised was Red River. But I think it should be done across the board evenly all the time. Like I said, more people in the office, more people dedicated to certain tasks, not trying to break them up. And it's still too small of a team for 5 people to do.
And you said that the tax
For
assessor's office.
2,204 square miles.
And you said that the tax assessor's office currently has budget for those staff members. They're just not filled, so they're empty positions, right?
Well, we have a lot of budget for helpers, if you will, temporary positions. So they're not full-time, but even if they're in the office 3 days a week, and I say in the office, I mean they're in the cars all over this county, verifying the information, bringing it back to the appraisers, the people who actually have certifications to make sure it's done correctly, and not wasting the time of the certified appraisers by making them be driving to Amalia for a whole day.
And you had said earlier, I think maybe before some people came, about utilizing satellite imaging. Like,
Yes.
What is that?
Utilizing satellite imaging. So we use Eagle View, Connect Explorer. So most of that imagery is pretty recent. I think our most recent imaging is from 2024. We usually get it every 2 years. It's a subscription service. But for the most part, if we run into an entire neighborhood that's never been valued before, it's quite easy to just use the tools within that software to see what the square footage would be. I have done that several times myself, and I've only had a few people ever come in and it be incorrect. And if it was incorrect, it was typically just because they had a 2-story home and the second story didn't go all the way across. But otherwise, that measuring tool in that software is very accurate.
Are there any other technological tools that you can think of that you could use?
Oh, well, yes, just making sure we're planning better and using the resources we already have. I know that we had bought a drone to use for agricultural properties because some of those can be over 1,000 acres. And, showing up to the gate and not seeing the cows there, it's 1,000 acres. Where are we? What leg do we have to stand? What leg do we have to stand on to take away your agricultural exemption just because we're at the front gate and can't get in? But that drone is not being utilized. It was not thought through after they bought it. It's still sitting in the box. After they bought it, they realized that the appraisers actually needed a license to use it. So I will actually do the planning and the research and utilize the resources that we not only already have, but I will find better ones too.
I have a question. So when you said that Red River got evaluated, why Red River? Why?
It was an identified area in our evaluation that had not moved in a certain amount of time. So we were asked by the state to focus on Red River as well as the commercial corridor here in town. I did both myself.
So if you had the manpower, you would have done the whole county. It's just a matter of having the manpower where you have to just focus in just one area.
Precisely. And I have big ideas. Of course, I can't guarantee you that it's achievable, but I would love to see satellite offices. I'd like to have a little office, maybe up in Cuesta, and somebody there that works there to focus on the north side of the town. It's a huge county, all the way from the border, Penasco, a little more southern than there, all the way to Red River, all the way to Ojo Caliente. And that is a huge amount of area to appraise with only a handful of people.
And is the budget there for more people and technology?
I know there's the budget for the helpers, for the part-timers. And like I said, I would like to refocus the way that we utilize them so that they are always in the field and bringing the information back to the people who can actually appraise. Better utilization of what we have. The technology is not there right now. As most of you know, there were issues last summer. So we're still rebuilding from that.
Mentions a lack of technology in office. What I know, that seems to be a common theme throughout the week, like to the office. Just out-of-date technology. How would you try and encourage public offices to embrace new technology?
Well, I'd encourage them to. So I think the best leaders, I don't have the name of the book right off the top of my head, sorry, but one of the leadership books, and I've loaned all of mine to my opponent. She's still reading them. They not only engage those who must make a project happen, but they also engage those who must live with the results. So I think that's been big problem in the way that we've used our technology budget in the county.
Results. So make results about this more tangible.
Just making better decisions. Recently, we all got new monitors in our office, and I don't think we needed new monitors. We needed more machines for more desk space. Well, the desk space is already there. They just didn't have computers with them. So that money could have been spent more wisely, in my opinion.
You also mentioned using drones to assess properties.
Especially with agricultural, the ones that are large, yeah, so.
Could be a privacy concern there.
Not necessarily. Especially if the owner has, if we've reached out to them and let them know that we're needing to verify their agricultural use. That happens twice a year, typically in the spring and the fall. We need to see either that you're using it for livestock or for harvest.
So I'm just curious, with your reevaluation of Red River, is that going to translate into more property taxes being collected? Is it quantifiable at this time? Is that quantifiable at this time?
I would have to look a little more closely, but so again, I think it'd be more fair and equitable if we did everything.
I agree.
And the law says that we have to do it every 4 to 6 years. And with a county this large, it is okay to have sections. And that one was identified as one that had not been done in an inappropriate amount of time. So other than that, though, I still try and go back to the analysis of the pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about the way that the tax rate is calculated, we look at the total county budget less other revenues divided by total assessed value. And if you're divided by more value, that tax rate actually goes down. 1
I was
over
just
2
wondering-
versus 1 over 16, right?
So I was just wondering if, for instance, values went up in Red River, therefore taxes are greater, and if there was pushback from the community.
Oh, there certainly has been. I've been invited by their Chamber of Commerce to speak with the Republican candidate there. So I will definitely be at that forum.
I mean, that's interesting, I think, because that's more of a give and take, kind of a.
Yes. And another thing, I know the current assessor, she, I believe a big part of her campaign was to rely on omit. So when you omit a property, that means that you, in New Mexico law, you can go back 10 years and add that tax assessment on to the current year. And I'm not a fan of that. Especially in my opinion, if we haven't done our job and we haven't been out there in that many years, then it's both our fault, right?
Seems kind of punitive.
Yeah. So we both need to have a hand in that. And I don't think it should be a back tax scenario. We'll just make it right for the current year. Yeah.
Well, I have 2 questions actually. Is the date set for the Red River thing yet?
Not yet,
Okay. Okay.
but we've been invited.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I hope you'll let us know. So my other question is, like you mentioned, Triadic and the outdated software in the county, and like maybe some harms, like we could all be paying less taxes. But do you feel like that, like using 40-plus-year-old software, does put local people at risk or has harmed us in any way? And what are those harms and risks?
I think the harms and risks of using the outdated software at this point in time is there's been too much excuse for why it simply can't be audited or made better, that we're just stuck with what we have. And, you know, I get into my Southernisms. Excuses are the bricks that build the house of failure. It's a poor workman who blames his tools. I'll make it work if I still got to work with that dinosaur. But yeah, it really is a hindrance. It takes much more time because we're having to do so much more math by hand, which isn't a terrible thing. Then there's 33 counties in New Mexico. 30 of them are on Tyler Eagle. Our county is being, in my mind, not wise in that they want to use a startup called Catalyst. And they currently only have one county in New Mexico that they just went live with in January. And they've got one other county that has signed up, and we're apparently maybe going to be the third one. Not a good thing. I've implemented many softwares in my little lifetime as an accountant, and that is, you never go with the startup. We don't need to be the beta. We've got too much work to do to put that kind of time in to let us be the test. And if the other 30 counties are already on the other one, easy transition. We can talk to those counties. We can ask them what their implementation hurdles were. We can have a very clear roadmap into how to get to a better scenario.
Thank you.
Does the assessor's office ever work with counterpart assessor's office in City County?
With what?
With the assessor's office in opposing to the opposite county?
Not in Colorado. I know we do kind of have some rapport with Bernalillo, with Rio Castilla. So there's not as much networking as I'd like to see, if that's what you're asking.
I'm curious about maybe properties that are tied into Colorado, west border, coast border. Maybe they have properties in both counties that disrupt or.
I haven't seen that in our office.
Square footages of the houses by the outside, but a lot of natural building like earthships and earth homes have like super thick walls.
Mm-hmm.
How is that fared by living square feet versus just the roof square feet? Is there a way for the assessor to make a different evaluation for different types of homes?
That's a great question. And so the way that we value homes comes from this really lovely large book called Marshall and Swift. And there's actually a special section for earthship homes. So earth rammed, straw bale homes. So it's all very clearly outlined within that book on how we need to measure it.
Who identifies it as that type of home? Is that when the appraiser, or the field appraiser goes out, do they have to make sure they classify it like that correctly?
Yes, and it's mainly the materials used.
Okay.
A lot of the time, builders will also tell us on their permit how they're specifying it. So we'll look at that first. But then while we're out there, we will look at every material used, the exterior walls, interior walls, floors, type of foundation, all of that, type of heating. And that's what will help us make a determination.
I have another question. It might be technical, but again, going back to the 2025 evaluation that I read. So a little bit earlier, you had said that according to the state, because our county is so large, the tax assessor's office can go several years without identifying? I think you said 6
That's
years
just
or
the-
something.
I don't have the code right off of hand, but that is the standard is every 4 to 6 years, each area should be reappraised
So
to make sure that we're at market value.
got it. So if that is the case, I recognize that there was another key deficiency that the property tax department outlined that said that mobile homes in Taos County had not had depreciations applied to them in at least 6 years. So if it's something that is allowed to not readdress for 6 years, why is the state calling Taos County deficient in not doing that?
It's a very good question. Again, I'd still like to see more people in the office, more staff, more people who are specialized. Any other county you go to, that's what you'll see. There will be a specialized mobile home person. There will be a specialized commercial person. And I think if we are able to have someone who's simply dedicated to that alone, then it'll be better overall. And we also need to see more scheduling, more schedules. This is how many mobile homes we have on the books. This is how old they are. This is the depreciation schedule.
So to follow up with that, is it incorrect or is it a correct assumption to make that at this point, anyone in Taos County that owns a mobile or manufactured home is probably paying more than their fair share of taxes because the state has said Taos County has not applied a depreciation schedule in 6 years?
Well, it depends on how new it is. If there's been any renovations, any remodels. And that's another thing people often misunderstand about appraisal is we don't go off of the actual age. We go off an effective age. And the effective age is based on the opinion of the appraiser. Because think about it, you could have something super, you could have something from the 40s, 50s, but you fixed it up.
Got it.
So effective age, not actual age.
You said there's exemptions for like veterans and other things.
Mhm.
Is that a local or by the county that can set those exemptions, or is it statewide? And is there any idea about like exempting someone over 75 years old from property tax?
That's statewide. So there's an exemption for 65 and older. That is set by the state. There is an exemption. So 65 and older, that's a value freeze. And it is based on your income. So you have to make less than $44,200. Other than that, there are veterans exemptions. So you need your DD-214. Thanks, friends. And so a few other pieces of paperwork there. But if you're 100%, then it comes all the way down. And especially with veterans, that is set at a 5-acre max. So if you own more than 5 acres, you're still going to have to pay for those ones. And there's head of household. So there's a lot of pieces there, whether you're an individual who's married or a widower, furnishing more than 1/2 of the cost of the support of any related person, or a single person. You can be a single person too, and a member of a condo association or like entity where you pay your property tax through that association.
So is that the head of household exemption? Is that like a percentage of your taxes or?
It's a flat 2,000 off of your taxable, and your taxable is 1/3 of your value.
What is the tax assessor's ability Or what does that process look like for legislation? So for example, if Taos County got together and we decided we don't want our seniors to pay taxes. We think that if you live for 75 years and you contributed enough to our county, we don't think that you should ever be at risk to lose your home because you're on a fixed income. And we came together and said, do something about this. What would be the tax assessor's role to help with that?
Well, for starters, I, as the assessor, I would reach out to our affiliates, our 33 counties strong, our IAAO division. I would start getting the bug in their ear, and then we would start writing it up and we'd present it at the legislative conference. And we vote on it there,
And that is
for it to
something
be
you're willing
introduced.
to do.
certainly.
Okay, if there are no more burning questions, Alexy, do you have any closing statements?
I just really thank everybody for showing out. I know it's a little bit of a small crowd, but no such thing as a small crowd, right? I'm really looking forward to just continuing to offer my skills and talents to this place where my heart lives. And I'm sorry Rusty couldn't be here.
Everybody loves us.
I know. Trying to teach him how to behave in public. Tony's trying to teach me the same. But I'm really looking forward to this election. I hope you guys can make it out. Early voting starts on Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, and the primary will be on June 2nd. And I really hope I have everybody's support.
Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.